acting. Lights dim, it's game time. Interview sharp, cut through like a shank line. Stick lounge, stories unfold, real and raw. From hustlers to dreamers, breaking laws with a claw. Microphone warriors, capturing life's conflicts. Sitting across legends, tales flick like black pics. Drop bars, not mics, knowledge, it rains. From the streets to the beats in every vein. Stick lounge, podcast, tales heavy with the weight. Real lives, gritty stories, never fake.
All right, I'm going to fade that one out because usually I play the one that has all of our different information on it, but I played the wrong one. That's okay. We play the same thing over and over and over again all the time. I like it either way. So, all right, Stick Lounge Podcast. Here we are, guys. Hamp, what you got going on, bro? We got you. You're on the God phone right now. You're not in studio, but you're here with us in spirit. So, what's up, man? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm on the bad phone right now. So anyway, glad to be with you guys. You know, physically, mentally, spiritually, all that stuff.
Getting there physically.
What's going on with me?
Yeah.
Said
you're getting there physically.
With me, Creole Soul. You know, I mean, is the option, is the main option of all this stuff. And we've been having live music here lately, and we had a band last night.
Yes, we did.
And we got a band coming up again on the 17th. These guys are really actually pretty good. The duo Bravo brothers, and they're actually bringing a third party in. I think he plays saxophone or something. They told me,
oh, cool.
I definitely wanted to add them to the group. So I was like, okay, let's just bring them on in. So, you know, we're going to go with that, and, you know, and keep it going, you know, moving right on into summer, you know, and hopefully by that time I'll be able to heal somewhat quickly and I can walk, you know, without a limp or
that's right. We'll get you a badass cane if you need one, man.
Yeah, I want one like Moses had in the 10 Commandments.
That'd have to be like an 8-foot cane. You're too tall, dude. That's a staff.
They had a guy told me yesterday when I went to my doctor for, you know, after surgery, post. He said, I said, let me ask you a question. How long did it take you to walk without a cane? He said, it took me a whole month before I left the walker at home. And he was walking pretty good. You know, I say, so I got another 3 weeks to look forward to with a walker.
Yeah.
He's like, yep. He said, you're not going to get past that at all, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think we talked about what you actually did. So you had a full knee replacement.
I had a full knee replacement where I just had to go in and the bone was rubbing bone against bone. And he said,
all them years of playing ball, man.
This is the only way we're going to fix it. You know, I said, well, I want a permanent fix, and I just got it. You know, I still believe how quickly I got in, you know.
I don't either, man. But, that was crazy. That was like, what, a month after you went in, they got you in for a knee replacement? That's insane.
Oh, that was probably a couple of weeks, you know.
Was it a couple of weeks? Yeah, it was crazy. It was fast.
Yeah. And but I was grateful for that one, you know. So, you know, I'm looking forward to the recovery and getting back in the swing of things, you know. The hardest thing right now for me is, and I don't know if your wife can validate this, she's is standing up in one place, you know, without getting tired, you know.
Yeah.
You get tired real quick.
Yeah.
This is Steve. We'll get to me in a minute, but I'm going to answer that question. My wife can validate that everything is tiresome.
I can't hear y'all.
Oh, you can't hear us? Did you lose us?
The last thing I asked was that if he can validate it. I said the hardest thing for me is, and I say his wife probably can validate this, is you get tired real quick.
Yep.
Yeah. Can you hear us, Sam?
Yeah.
Okay, now you can hear us. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
It's like you run 20 miles and you only took 10 steps, you know.
Yep. My wife can validate that everything makes you tired. It's a slog, especially that first week is really a slog. And then you're moving around, and then you're getting into a routine, and you know, and then you get mad at somebody and you kick them and your knee goes, that didn't hurt at all, man.
You get that
right on, I want to kick.
You get that little kid that runs up and kicks you in the knee. Oh man, that's not gonna be good.
Yeah, right. Yeah, not gonna be good for him.
Yeah, right. Stub a toe. So we got live music coming up at Creole Soul, yeah. And what else? You want to share anything else you got going? I know you're working on some stuff for the bar. Yeah. I'm actually going to, you know, people talk, and of course I'm a good listener.
and I don't know the difference between. They said, they thought my liquor prices was a little high,
Okay.
and I mean to fix that, but I heard somebody say, well, he has Seattle prices in Des Moines, I know what that is, I don't know what to drink. I know, I don't know what the different prices in drink, because I don't drink. I just go by what my distributor tell me. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna give them something better than that. I'm gonna give them something where they won't even believe that he really charges this much for this drink. Like, yeah, because I'm gonna go down south and bring the New Orleans price down here as well.
All right.
And it'll be a whole lot different and a whole lot cheaper than what I had in mind. But I used to be at that point at one time, but I'm gonna bring it back. And so with live music, good food, I think good food anyway. And then Joe learned how to fry the catfish really well. So
Hey, everybody's enjoying it, man. Everybody's enjoying it. No complaints. That's for sure.
So other than that, man, welcome aboard. Glad to have you. I'm sure Joe has a lot of questions for you.
I do.
He's that guy.
I am that guy. I'm totally that guy.
I'm a good listener. I'll ask you a question here and there, if I piques my interest, other than that, it's like I'm just listening, and because you learn, when you listen. So
Yeah, just hang on the line, and like I said, if you got to jump off or something, feel free to jump off, but we're gonna rock and roll.
Those two black guys. I have the two guys in black suits at the door.
Yep.
That's different than having two black guys at your door, Ham.
I mean, you already got cut off once.
Yeah.
Someone's listening.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what happens, right? These interviews always get something weird happens in these interviews. All right, cool. For Stick Lounge, for Stick Lounge, we don't have a lot going on right now because Ham's on the mend, so we're focusing on Creole, keeping that running because that's the engine that drives the whole train. But I got a lot of stuff that I'm working on. I want to do some different dance parties. I think it'd be fun to kind of do some club stuff here in Des Moines. Not a lot of places you can just go dance and have a good time. And then you and I were talking about an idea, getting you in here maybe to do some talks on the Prohibition stuff, right?
Yeah, that was just serendipity, just sitting around the coffee table, and and as often happens, you meet people and then you start sharing ideas. And I had no idea that this had transformed itself into a speakeasy.
Yeah.
And that was like catnip for me. And I immediately go, I know all about speakeasies and all about the history of Prohibition in Seattle. And I've been speaking about that all over the state.
That'd be cool.
And the favorite talks I give on that topic are the ones at venues that serve alcohol.
Yes. So it'd be cool
It makes sense to talk about whiskey.
Right.
Whiskey.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And people seem to enjoy that a lot. So yes, that would be a fun event.
Yeah, I think so. Do like a bar speakeasy night.
Yeah,
it's a listen, learn, a drink and learn, right?
Get one of the brands out here to sponsor. Let them make a pitch, and then
I think I got the guy for that too.
Let's do the history of drinking. And the thing is, like all the stories that I get excited about, it's not just, oh, gee, I like Prohibition or I like history. This is a Des Moines story.
Yeah.
The reason that we talk about this story is it comes right out of our city.
Yeah.
And in fact, my neighborhood in Woodmont, just south of Des Moines. And,
nice.
Nobody knows this stuff. And then you learn it and you go, oh my God, how do we not know this stuff?
Yeah.
Yes, let's do it.
Perfect. I think that's going to be awesome. So with that, I'm going to give you a proper introduction. Steve Edmiston, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Steve, thanks for being here. Everybody's really excited. I know I'm really excited. So cool. I wanted to have you in here. I think I reached out to you first initially, right?
I was trying to remember exactly what the order of things was, but I think maybe someone had mentioned something and then you sort of pinged me.
I think Patrice was putting us together.
Oh, that could be, yes.
Yeah, and because I've been to the MIBBB Fest several times. Always have a good time. Really enjoy it. The Film Fest is probably one of my favorite things. Love that. And yeah, you guys got it coming up soon, and I'm like, I got to get him in there. We got to talk about it. So I'm excited to have you here today. What I didn't know is you've got a long history of a lot of different things.
I have a rap sheet, man.
You do have a rap sheet. So you were a lawyer for a very long time.
I still am.
Okay.
Yeah. Since been about 35 years going on. Oh, just gave my age away, didn't I? People are starting to do math. They're like 35 years.
That's good. With age comes wisdom. With age comes wisdom.
There you go. Yeah. So I am the current iteration of my law practice is entertainment law, business law, intellectual property. So licensing, trademarks.
Nice.
That kind of stuff.
So there's a lot of that out here then, huh? Like.
Yeah. I mean, we're certainly not Hollywood. We're certainly not New York. But Seattle obviously has an incredible creative community.
It really does. I'm always surprised when I hear the certain people are from this area, you know, or just reside here. I'm like, wow, I didn't realize that person was here. You know, can't think of anybody off the top of my head.
Then just these major brands that are, you know, have branched into entertainment. So,
right.
and certainly the gaming business. So you got
that's huge.
Nintendo and all that, all those companies that are here. So there is like a huge reservoir of talent and then business folk who sort of surround that talent so that they can create, you know, products that are entertainment. Yeah,
I've done a ton of work. I'm in the construction space, and I've done a bunch of work with, you know, Microsoft and their gaming side. Not to throw out a bunch of different names, but what was the other? Riot Games I've done some work with. Just a bunch of different, the video games out here, Nintendo, it's huge, man. It's crazy. But the tech space and all that. And then in that now you have these rising stars of like gaming streamers, right? They play video games, they stream, they get a following on Twitch or YouTube or whatever. So they're entertainers now too. So it's kind of crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's interesting as a lawyer, you sort of get used to a certain thing. Like probably the primary focus of my entertainment practice is film industry stuff.
Gotcha.
And my colleague is a music guy. So he's a musician. So he loves that part of the law. I'm a filmmaker. I love that part of the law. And you know, so you kind of gravitate to that. And, you know, I'm working with everybody from the talent side to the investor side to the vendor side to the, you know, and then if they're successful, the filmmakers, we're looking at distribution and we're trying to negotiate, you know, so it's the whole soup to nuts, but it's all, you know, I would call truly independent, right? I mean, we're not in the studio system here in Seattle, right? So these are more straightforward entrepreneurial, you know, rolls of the dice that people are making to try to get their small films made and produced and out there. It's really fun. Awesome. It's really fun to be part of a team like that, to be able to, because, you know, as a filmmaker myself, you know, I've got those creative juices, but then as a lawyer on someone's team, you know, it's really kind of fun. Okay, you're the creative energy.
Yeah.
I'm happy I can help you a little bit.
Yeah.
That's
no,
great.
It's just cool to be in the space, right?
Yeah.
So now does that help with the film fest you guys put on every year? Does that kind of give you an in, or is that just a space that you've always been in being a filmmaker and everything?
Yeah, I don't know that it's had any impact. I mean, certainly, and this is true with a lot of the film producing that I do, the fact that I am a lawyer that is familiar with the space basically puts stuff on my plate to do.
I gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, no, it makes sense.
So I like this weekend I thought, I'm going to get all the contracts set for MIBBB Fest and get them out. I didn't, but I mean, that just ends up on my plate. So it helps, yes, but it certainly isn't like some sort of super fuel.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you have several films. You told me what they were, and I've got a list here, but I want you to talk about them. And I know that the Maury Island Incident is part of that.
Yep.
But what were the other films that you had some that you got some awards on, correct?
Yeah, I broke into and I say break in loosely because it's independent film, right? I never moved to LA, but broke in sort of as a screenwriter in the 90s, and sort of from the 90s to, let's say, 2010, was fortunate enough to have written 4 feature films that got made.
That's wild, man.
Yeah. Now, you've never heard of any of them.
That's still cool.
Probably, if you're addicted to the Lifetime channel, you probably saw one.
Oh, Hamp loves a Lifetime. You still on there, Hamp?
Hey, you know, it's funny you say that, you know, because
he loves a Lifetime.
I actually read for 2 movies. I missed one because I wasn't home. I was married to a girl from Copenhagen, Denmark. HBO had a movie that came out, A Lesson Before Dying. You ever heard of that movie?
Don't know it. Don't know it. But that's on me. There's a lot of things I don't know.
Yeah, Victor Davis was the casting director. You know, I got a phone call at home. This is when the answering machine was big, you know, back then. And I actually was in Denmark. We got back there, left a message saying, hey, can you come down and let's try you out for wardrobe, blah, blah, blah. And didn't get back in time enough. And I also flew to LA to do the movie The Green Mile. I read for The Green Mile.
That's right. I remember you told me that.
Now,
you told me that.
I do know that movie.
Yeah, yes. I think everybody knows that movie. That's a good one.
Yeah, that one would have set me straight a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so, you know, my wife and I, at the time, that wife at that time, you know, she was, we did a lot of extras, you know, and that was scene for extras. She used to do a TV show called The Big Easy in New Orleans, and it was with a black and a white detective, you know, and they had a bar called the Blue Spot, and I actually was the doorman in the Blue Spot in that bar. So.
Yeah.
Well, you
but
got one of
then
those
it's like,
IMDb credits then.
Yeah.
yeah. You know, I was trying to find a way to get my SCAG card at that time. You know?
Yeah. There you go. There you go. So what got you into film, Steve? Like, did you just start doing it because the love of it, or?
Well, yeah, I loved movies, and when I graduated from law school and got my very first job as a lawyer at a downtown Seattle law firm, serendipitously, I mean, it had nothing to do with me choosing the firm.
Yeah.
They had a client called at that time Sterling Recreation Organization, or SRO. SRO actually controlled all but 6 screens in the greater Seattle area.
Wow.
So if you think about all the theaters and movie theaters and everything, at this time, this one group, I mean, you couldn't go to a movie theater that wasn't an SRO theater. We were the firm I joined represented them.
Okay.
And so a perk of being a lawyer at that firm was to get a little gold card, literally like a gold card.
Nice.
And
Get to go to all the movies.
my wife and I got to go to all the movies, and it was like the super card. Like you just walk to the front and showed it. Didn't matter if it was
Got the golden
sold
ticket.
out or anything.
Nice.
And so, we're poor, we don't have, it's first job. And so we basically saw every movie.
I bet.
Every movie.
Nice.
Like we would go to the multiplex and we'd see it all. We'd just stay there all
Just stay
day
there
long.
like, sir, it's time to leave. No, sir.
Yeah,
I have the gold card.
and here's why I got involved was because it's strange. A lot of times we want to do things in life because we aspire. We see this great thing and we want to be the great thing.
Yeah, for sure.
This was kind of the opposite. This was
Really?
There's so much bad stuff.
Yeah.
We all complain.
Okay.
Everybody's an expert in movies. Everybody can
that's
look at the
fair.
movie and go, it's good, not good.
Yeah.
And it just sort of struck me that there were so many really bad movies being made, bad concepts, poorly written, whatever. And I had started having an idea of a movie, right?
I like it.
Love movies. And so it was wasn't aspirational. It was like, I can do better than that.
Yeah.
That was ego. It was probably this unchecked ego.
I can actually relate to that because I used to do music years ago.
Yeah.
I did music for probably almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And it jaded me towards music. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I
because
do,
I
do.
knew some, and I'm not saying that I was great. I worked with some really great musicians that were nobodies, right? I mean, they were decent on the local scene, but they had nobody knew who they were.
Right.
And they were phenomenal. And then I'd hear this stuff on the radio, and I'm like, this is garbage.
How is this happening?
How is this happening?
How is that the decision? Right.
Yeah, and I'd get people like, have you heard that new song? I'm like, it sucks. I don't care. It's terrible. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Totally understand what you're saying.
So I just did just DIY. I went to a bookstore and bought a book on how to write a screenplay. And as a lawyer, I knew a few things about getting records, and I had this idea about a very, very dark serial murder thriller. Now, this is like the 90s, which is big for that. That was a big genre. And I wrote this script, first one, and knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody, and it got optioned.
That's awesome.
First one. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, ego boy, I'm like, this is easy. I just wrote my first script and it got optioned.
This.
I got to fly to LA and ride a golf cart around a film set.
Very
and
cool.
Tried to challenge George Clooney to a basketball game.
Did you really?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
He was shooting ER.
Okay.
And I'm on a golf cart. I'm nobody.
Yeah.
Right? I'm literally nobody. Walks out in scrubs, and there's a basketball hoop. They're just on a break. They're on a break outside a big soundstage.
Right.
And I'm like, I gotta. And the guy driving me, the assistant to the assistant.
Yeah.
And I was like, I gotta play basketball with George Clooney, because I was a basketball player at the time.
Yeah.
And the guy was petrified.
Oh, really?
He goes, you cannot. He was like, you cannot. Like, I'll get fired. And so I was like, well, I was trying to also get something, so I better not raise. And I just the golf cart just goes by, and all I was thinking, like,
you're like,
I want
damn
to
it,
go, Mr. Clooney. Let's play horse. Let's play horse. I can beat you.
Yeah. That'd be a great story, right?
It would have been great, and I regret it to this day.
Yeah.
Like, that was a mistake. I should
awesome.
have just trusted my gut.
That's still cool, though. That's still cool. I'd be the same way, though. I'm not an autograph guy. I'll be like, let's arm wrestle.
Yeah.
Let's play hoops. Let's do something like that.
So I went around. Movie didn't get made. Then the next script, I got a manager. That was exciting. Nothing got made. And it just kind of went on. Then I realized, this isn't easy.
Okay.
You might be able to get over into something happens, but getting it made is not easy. So then many years went by until, the first picture that I wrote got produced.
Okay.
And the most recent one was the Lifetime one that I was joking about. It's called Crimes of the Past, and it had some decent names in it. And, you know,
No, I'm gonna look
we
them
got
up. I
paid
want to watch
for
them.
it.
I love that kind
yeah,
of stuff.
Yeah. So dig it up.
I will. I
Yeah,
will definitely.
okay.
So you don't do films anymore?
Oh, I do. Just having, you know, they're just really hard.
takes a
Financing
lot
is
of
everything.
time,
It's
yeah.
figuring out how to get a film financed is the challenge. I've made a lot of the short form content. One of them, the one that the film that will not die, and I mean that in the best way possible,
Yeah.
is the Maury Island Incident.
Yes.
That
yeah.
we made in, I think it came out in 2014.
Yeah.
And
gonna dig
we
into
are
that.
still, that film still gets. Will you come at the conference? Will you come show the thing? Will you?
Yep.
Do? Yeah, and it's.
It has quite a bit of steam.
It has
you
some
know?
legs.
I did a little bit of research, and this
Yeah.
isn't even before the interview. This is when I heard about the You call it MIBBB Fest.
MIBBB Fest.
I'm going to say MIBBB Fest. That's easier. For the MIBBB Fest, I'm like, because I love this kind of stuff. I'm that guy that the way I always put it is, I'd rather live in a world where there's UFOs and aliens and Bigfoot than not, because it sounds like a lot of fun. You know what I mean? So to me, it's like, cool, let's talk about it. Let's have the stories, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So anyways, when I heard about the Maury Island incident and MIBBB Fest, I did some research myself, and that's the thing that always pops up is that film. So it seems to do well.
We Scott Schaefer, who's a Burien resident and runs all the blogs, the B-Town blog and Waterland blog, etc. He's a Directors Guild of America.
Nice.
He worked in L.A., was a comedy writer for a number of years, and so he had moved up here. Scott came to the very first party that we threw in our neighborhood called Burning Saucer.
Okay.
And this party was the only idea I had when I had first learned the story of the Maury Island incident. Like,
Okay.
oh my God, this story's so great. Nobody knows the story. Nobody has
Right.
ever heard this story. And it's like right here. We look at the
It's
water. That's
right
where it
here.
happened,
Yeah.
right here. And so our big idea was, well, let's throw a party and for our neighbors, because we have this nice little area outside on the water that we can do things like that in our neighborhood, in the Woodmont neighborhood. And we created a fictitious historical society called the Maury Island Incident Historical Society.
That's awesome.
And we invited all the neighbors, we invited everybody to come to this party. And the idea was we would have a bonfire. We would tell the story to get the word out of this is our story, right where we're looking at it.
Yeah.
And at the end, my neighbor, Terry Donahue, would create a spaceship of
Nice.
some nature. And we would show everybody, have them all like get excited about it, and then we would instantly burn it and make them angry. You know what I mean? Like make art and burn the art.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it worked. Like and so we're on year 13 of Burning Saucer.
That's so cool. So you're still doing Burning Saucer too?
Burning Saucer,
But that's more of
we're allowed to have 30 people
Okay.
at our community
Okay,
beach.
so don't go to Burning Saucer.
And we have 175 people show up.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah,
awesome.
And the board has, I won't say reluctantly, I think they are so on board at this point with the concept and the fun.
Yeah.
That's in juxtaposition with maybe MIBBB Fest. Burning Saucer is sort of focused on the UFOs and the tinfoil, and the comedy is, and so the media. So we run Burning Saucer as a annual meeting of a historical society. So when you show up, you're not just, oh, I'm having a cocktail, I'm drinking, I'm talking to
Right.
somebody, I might meet two people.
Right.
The meeting starts.
The meeting's
It's
we're getting it
called
done.
to order. 175 people are like, what is going on?
That's funny.
And we have Robert's rules, and we have secret handshakes, and we have all that kind of
Nice.
stuff.
Oh,
and
man, I want in.
special guests, and we have music, and then at the end the ceremonial burn.
Yes.
To sear in our memories. See,
Very
it
cool.
all makes sense. So that was so successful.
You
We
decided
kind of had to figure out how to. We always were getting. You got to do something that's not private.
Right.
So MIBBB Fest, the Men in Black Birthday Bash, is a spinoff essentially of Burning Saucer,
And it's
and
done
really
well.
really focuses on a different component. It focuses on sort of the second part of the Maury Island story,
Right.
which is the true notion. This is like, as a lawyer, I get excited about this. The true part is like whether it happened or not. Let's just set that aside.
Right.
But the story that was told by the witnesses,
Yes.
right?
So
Well, that
let's
happened.
let's do that real quick.
Yeah.
So for anybody that doesn't know, and I know because I'm a nerd, self-proclaimed. What is the Maury Island Incident? I'm sure you can tell it better than I can. So please.
Well, I hope. I mean, not relativistically, but I hope I can
Sure.
tell it for your audience. Maury Island Incident is a UFO story that allegedly happened on June 21 and June 22, so coming right up, 1947. So
Okay.
get get that year, 1947, 2 years after World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And the basic story is a man named Harold Dahl on the 21st of June is out on Puget Sound with his son and with 2 dock workers on Harold's boat, the North Queen, and they're just off Maury Island. They've come up from Tacoma, and they're scavenging logs, which is a whole industry at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they allegedly see 6 flying discs.
Right.
Flying discs. They're kind of hollow, shaped like a donut, and the big sort of Saving Private Ryan thing, beach landing is one of them appears to be failing and then has an explosion and rains what they describe as like fiery slag, like a molten. They don't use molten lava.
Mm-hmm.
They call it slag, but it's a fiery material. Rains down on the North Queen, allegedly, damages the boat. It's right.
Mm-hmm.
It's right over. These saucers are like 100 feet across, and this one's right over the boat, and it's just raining this stuff. It damages the boat. It kills the family dog,
Right.
Sparky.
I remember that, yeah.
Charles, Harold's son, has his arm burned. And this stuff falling out is so frightening, according to the story, that they take this boat, and it's an 80-foot working trawler,
Right.
big boat.
Right.
They run it ashore on Maury Island, just across from us here in Des Moines.
Mm-hmm. We can
And
see it out the window
You
right
can
here.
see it right out the window. And they hide in some cliffs. That it was at the time a gravel mine. And they hide, and then, then the discs go away, all
Right.
of them. There's no crash. The discs all go away. So that's kind of day one.
Right.
When I do speaking, I always like day one.
Yeah.
And then I go to the audience and go, you're really smart. I know you know what's coming next. There's a day 2. And day 2, the next morning, a man shows up at Harold Dahl's house in Tacoma, Washington, on Gove Street. And you know how he was dressed.
He's a strange guy dressed in black.
In black. He is the quintessential Men in Black, as we know from interviews and records that we can talk about.
If I'm correct, this is the first mention ever of a man in black.
Yeah, according to our research, which we did a ton for the movie and everything else, the sort of the genesis, the origin story of what we now know as the Men in Black. Will Smith, Tommy Lee Jones, X-Files, every episode of the X-Files, every the stuff you see on Ancient Aliens, everything comes from Harold's story. So true or not, give him credit.
It's the origin.
Give him credit. This is the story that there's the stone that ripples the water that hits,
just runs.
that creates all that.
And you hear about it all the time too.
To me, that was the hook.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, the fact that this story is not being told, and you got, 2 weeks after Maury Island, after what I just told you, 2 weeks later is Roswell.
Yeah.
So these are not in silos. These are not in different periods of time. It's the same summer. It's called the Summer of the Saucer. Just 2 days later, after Maury Island, is the famous UFO sighting by Ken Arnold at Mount Rainier, 9/9. And this
which, if I remember correctly, he's the one that coined the term flying saucer.
In
correct?
an interview with a reporter after his sighting, he was describing how they moved, and they were skipping like saucers, like flying saucers over the water.
Yeah.
So yes. So those are 3 sort of famous incidents. 2 of them are famous.
Right.
Right? Ken Arnold sighting of Mount Rainier and Roswell.
Yeah.
Maury Island's usually more in the infamous camp. And the reason is, and this is where the story just goes off the rails in a wonderful way.
Yeah.
If you go on Wikipedia, if you go on Superficial, do any research, you're going to see that someone will tell you Harold Dahl made it up, that he confessed that what happened to him at Maury Island was a hoax.
Wasn't there evidence though? Wasn't he like actually injured and damage to the boat?
There is, yeah. So you'll see the hoax theory, and what you'll find out is that at the end of that summer, everybody in every agency in the United States is actually actively investigating thousands of flying saucer sightings across the United States.
Okay. Saucer flap.
Yeah, it's called the Summer of the Saucers, 1947. And so you have the FBI and the Army Air Force and the newly formed CIA, and they're all paying attention to it, and they're all hunting down all these sightings. If you decide that you're going to make one up and have a hoax and it goes up in the newspaper, you're going to get a knock on your door in a week, and you're going to get an Army intel officer who's going to ask you about it.
Right.
And the reason was not because they thought it was little green men. I mean, maybe they did, but I don't think so. The reason was we were just 2 years out of World War II,
Right.
and we just learned we have a new enemy, the Soviet Union.
National security.
And we were worried that what if
technology.
the Soviets have technology and they're overflying our country? And that's what we're seeing.
That's
so
still
they
a concern now too, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that came up with the New Jersey drone thing.
The drones, yeah.
Exactly.
So this is all happening. And at the end of the summer, in the last day of July, 2 Army intel officers, Ken Arnold, a couple other people are all like involved in investigations. They all plan to interview Harold Dahl, our witness, our Maury Island witness,
Right.
in Tacoma at the Winthrop Hotel, and kind of check that box. We're investigating Maury Island.
Right.
So they do. They go out and they meet. They meet at the Winthrop Hotel. They do the interviews, and at the interviews, they get they are handed samples of slag. And I noticed in your opening, I swear I heard the word cornflakes.
Maybe. I don't know.
Did I?
I don't know.
Okay. So the funny part about that is they handed these intelligence officers samples of the slag that had fallen onto the boat
Okay.
in a cornflakes box. In
Really?
a circa 1947. And that's a running joke for us, right?
Okay.
That it's like, I don't know, put it in a cornflakes box, hand it to the Air Force intelligence officers.
That's funny.
So the intel officers take the slag, they've done the interview, and they go to McCord Air Force Base where they've been flying around the country in a B-25 bomber,
Right.
which is just Army surplus, right? It's just war surplus,
Right.
which is super weird to me. But
Yeah.
hey, I gotta fly to Seattle. What do you take the B-25?
Take the bomber.
Yeah, take the bomber. So they have their slag. They go to it's the middle of the night. It's now August 1st. They put the slag onto the B-25. They pick up 2 passengers. The investigators are pilots, ex-pilots, and they take that slag. If you're a conspiracy theorist, you're going to say evidence of of aliens or something.
Right.
They put it onto the bomber and they write down on their manifest top secret cargo. So now we have top secret cargo, on B-25. They take off in the middle of the night because it's Air Force Day. It's the first ever Air Force Day. And what's happening on August 1st of 1947 is the Air Force is going to separate from the Army and become a separate branch of the military.
I did
just
not know
randomly happening.
Just
right?
happened at the same time.
And
Wow.
these pilots were going to be Air Force pilots, and they want to get down to Hamilton, and they wanted to celebrate. There are going to be parties and parades and blah, blah.
Yeah.
So they take off in the middle of the night, and they make it about 45 minutes. The plane spontaneously catches fire.
I remember reading that part. Yeah.
And they are heroic. They get the 2 passengers into parachutes. They get them off the plane. But that is too much time. And the plane becomes fully engulfed. The left wing breaks off. They can't get out. They die in the forests east of Kelso in the crash.
Wow.
So tragedy, right? So now we have a UFO sighting, and we have an investigation, and now we have this tragedy.
Classified material.
Yeah, and so so it gets weird. I mean, we're not. I always tell we're not to the weird part yet.
Right. Exactly.
So we got a plan. We got a crash B-25. At the site, they actually cordon it off. Bring a platoon of, from McCord down to seal it off. They bring in another intelligence officer to the site. That intelligence officer has one objective, and that is to recover the top secret cargo.
Okay.
So if you're like
Find the cornflakes.
if you're finding this stuff, and he finds it.
Oh, okay.
And he is able to take that. It's in what's called a navigator's kit. They put it in a navigator's kit, and he finds it, and he leaves with the top secret cargo.
Okay.
At that point, they release the site to local law enforcement. We don't know where. I always get asked, where is it?
Yeah.
And I always go, it's next to the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh, okay.
In the warehouse at the end of the Indiana Jones movie, where there's stuff we're never supposed to know.
Right.
So tragedy, plane crash, people died. The FBI, J. Edgar Hoover's FBI, is charged with investigating the crash of a B-25 bomber.
Right.
Domestically during peacetime. That's their gig.
Okay.
So here we have the Tacoma office of the FBI in early August being told, and think about it for a minute, FBI agent being charged with some tragedy that apparently is connected with alien artifacts.
Right.
Does it sound like the X-Files?
It does a lot.
I always think of this like this is history's first X-File.
Right.
And we have a hero in the story, and the hero is a special agent out of the Tacoma office, Special Agent Jack Wilcox.
Okay.
And it's because of his writing as the investigating FBI agent over the course of the summer.
Like his report filing?
Yeah, every day.
Okay.
He was meticulous and he was prolific.
Okay.
So we have him interview. Here's what they said.
Nice.
And he's actually communicating directly with Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover.
Oh, wow.
Who you would go, well, how is that possible? Well, it turns out a lot of people, Hoover had his issues. He had a lot of things that were different about him, and he was about to enter a stage in his career that was bad. He was going to start surveilling people. He's going to start doing all kinds of bad things.
Right.
But it turns out he was really into UFOs.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense.
And so his memoranda
He got to
between the
pick. He's like, I wanna
FBI
be
and the
involved in this
Army. And so he was, it was hard to imagine. He was teletyping directly with Wilcox.
That's wild.
And Wilcox, the lowly field agent, right?
Right.
In the Gulag, here in the Tacoma office of the FBI, you couldn't be farther from the power center, is actually responding. And on August 14th, so during the investigation, this notion of hoax comes up. And what happened was, and this is the only narrative. This is, if I could Vulcan mind meld everybody to know one thing.
Okay.
This is the only narrative in the FBI records. There is no counter narrative.
Right.
And the only narrative in the FBI records, and it's repeated over and over and over again by Wilcox and some others that were working with him. Harold Dahl never said it was a hoax.
Okay.
So when you read on the internet, it was a confessed hoax. Harold Dahl never said that to the FBI.
Really?
He told the FBI, he goes, I have had so many bad things happen to me because of the men in black who we kind of skipped over the fact that they got together and had an interview and everything. The men in black told me bad things would happen to me, and they have happened. Many bad things. We can talk about that. And I have been so ridiculed, and it's so embarrassing, and it's so harmful because I said I saw a UFO. If I'm asked about this going forward, I'm going to say I made it up.
Right. Rather take that than keep going and
in the FBI records, he uses phrases like, I will claim to be the biggest liar that ever lived.
Just didn't want to.
As opposed to be accused of being someone who saw a UFO. But I saw what I saw. Right.
Okay.
It's all right.
And that's
there.
official FBI record.
It's the only narrative in the FBI records.
All right.
And
there you go.
it's in there. Now, why is that not known to all of us?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if we all know that, we're going, okay, I kind of, at least we should pay attention to it like we do everything else.
Sure.
They sealed those records for 50 years.
Really?
Yeah. So we never had any access, to all of Wilcox's reports and all of his interviews, and they just sealed it in the ordinary course because it's top secret. And that was the vacuum. There was nothing. And so the only thing that was out there was Harold Dahl saying, I made it all up.
Gotcha.
And now, if it's a hoax, why would we pay attention to it?
Right.
So when I learned the story, I got to tell you, and I got to the point of hoax, I was kind of crushed because I thought this was, as a cool filmmaker, storyteller, I thought this was a really cool story. And I, but there was a lot of documents I hadn't looked at. So I started pulling all this, like I do as a lawyer.
Right.
I get all the documents and then I put them in order. And then I start going, what is the timeline?
Right.
And what I found out was what I just told you was, there is no question here.
So at the time that you were doing your research for it, the documents were released. Was that late 90s?
It was late 90s. So by, let's say if they were sealed in 1947, you would argue that 97. But I didn't even know the story until I encountered it in 2012.
Okay.
So but nobody did. I mean, there was nobody was writing about this. I mean, I do believe that Scott and I, because we like to throw parties and have
found a cool way to throw a party.
We kind of got the story. We started getting the story out there, and
very cool.
And so we kind of had this notion that this is a story worth telling.
Yeah.
And it's a really human drama. And so if you've seen the movie, or if anybody that is listening wants to see the movie, it's it isn't it's not space opera.
Right.
This is a story of a man who says he saw something, and it's sort of a hard.
It's a good film too. How long is it?
It's a 30-minute film, so it's not a feature. We'd love to make a feature, but we didn't have the budget to make a feature. We had to figure out how to tell in this mega story, this epic tale, how to tell a piece of it.
Yeah.
We decided in 2013. Scott came to the first burning saucer.
Okay.
And he came up afterwards. He goes, that's the best film pitch I've ever heard. We need to make this movie,
That's
And
awesome.
so we figured out how we might make it happen, and we actually were able to do it. We found an executive producer, John White, who was really instrumental in allowing us to get over the hump to finance and get this thing underway. And we released it in 2014, and it's the film that never dies.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I was not a UFO guy. I didn't know how passionate
Oh, it's
the audience was, and so we have really enjoyed the experience.
So, but prior to that, and I didn't know that's when you released it, but you never heard about the Maury Island incident at all, and now it pops up occasionally, and I would accredit your guys' film to that. Really,
we have tried. I mean, the film and the festivals have actually helped, a lot, and getting that word out. We got a little political. We got the Washington State Senate to pass a resolution in 2017, where I think we were the only state in the union that has a kind of an official UFO tale.
That's cool.
And we got them to include in the resolution that we're basically
nice.
Roswell kind of sucks, and we're the real story.
That's awesome.
Which is kind of fun. But yes, it's just this ongoing process of education about what is the story. I never try to tell people what happened.
Right.
Like
sure.
I don't know. I'm open-minded, but I don't know. But the actual stuff we know because of the FBI records, all that
FBI records,
there is no UFO story with documentation that parallels
That's true.
what we have.
That's
this
very
is
true.
incredible.
Yeah.
This year, one of the funny things is you keep the story is so epic, you just skip over things.
Yeah.
So this is the first year at our MIBBB Fest, at our public festival, Men in Black Birthday Bash, which is coming up in June. It runs from the 13th of June to the 22nd of June in Des Moines, primarily, and the South Center Mall. That's where we're actually doing the movie screening is going to be at the AMC theaters in the mall.
Oh, no kidding.
Plus an after party, plus
nice
a trivia contest led by our tourism bureau, Explore Seattle Southside, has gone deep.
Nice.
And they're handling that this whole
Very cool.
night on the 20th of June.
Is that the first time you guys have done this portion of it, like at South Center and stuff?
Yeah. This is
Nice.
We had been limping along. I mean, one of the things, this is sort of the Des Moines. Let's come back, roll it back to Des Moines for a minute. Des Moines is one of the things that when we decided to do the spin-off festival, we decided to do Men in Black Birthday Bash. One of the fun parts is the cosplay night,
right?
Where everybody's dressed. It's so much fun, and it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was, lost my thought. See that was
okay.
like okay.
We're going through the Des Moines side of it and the cosplay night and what we're doing down here. Right?
When we did the spinoff because we were well aware that the Des Moines Theater was being refurbished to become this great venue.
Right.
And Ben, who's awesome.
Yep.
We'd met him, and we were like, we need to have Des Moines have a major festival.
Yeah.
And it needs to have a major music component, and now we could do that.
Very cool.
So we were very excited about that. Here we are, and so we kind of were like, we're going to do this. We're going to get a year under our belts. Theater's going to open. And
we're getting close, man. We're getting close.
I know. And now here we are going on year 4, and we're hopeful that in year 5, with it. So
I know he was hoping to have that main area done this summer, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and it's all good, and we wish them the best, and we can't wait.
Yes,
to participate. We can't wait to participate in every way in the theater. But for us as a festival, that has been like for many business, kind of like, okay, we're trying to hang on because we don't have a music portion, right?
Right.
So even doing, what we did, like you mentioned the prior movie nights that we did at Harper Studios.
Yes.
That was a really hard way to do an event. Well, because you're asking somebody to do something that they don't normally do, right?
Yeah.
So you're saying, well, you got a photo studio, but would you actually become a movie theater and a performance venue?
It worked well. I mean, I
and
enjoyed
then
it.
Also, we're going to do this crazy space-themed go-go dancers. We're just going to like...
That was good, though.
It was really fun. So, but I think the wise way would be to try to focus on how do we work with Des Moines businesses and keep them in their wheelhouse, right?
Yeah,
and so, like this year, we're doing on June 13th, we're kind of opening with if you're familiar with the SNL character Colleen Rafferty, played by Kate McKinnon. She did it 9 times, alien abductee. We're doing a Colleen Rafferty lookalike contest at the Mercantile.
Oh, nice.
And so we already have, it's sold out already.
Oh, really?
I haven't even announced that, but we already have, whatever, fire marshal, 49 people capacity, it's boom, it's gone.
There you go.
So we're going to have 49 Carol Rafferty's, and I think also Carl Rafferty's. We're going to
Perfect.
And... everybody gets to, they'll all be dressed up, and, I think there'll be a lot of wigs, and I think everybody gets to draw a line out of a hat, and, and those are her.
They're going to say that. Perfect.
The lines I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
That's the only way you can be in the competition is to say one line.
That's awesome.
At random. So, so we're going to have fun. So, we're getting, but that's the mercantile, that's the model. So the mercantile is basically a venue that would love to have 49 people to buy beverages, right? I mean, let's just oversimplify it, right?
Course, yeah.
So that's what we want. That's what we need them to do an event like this.
Yep.
I think movie night at the AMC Theater, because the Tourism Bureau has a connection to make that happen and everything else.
Yep.
That's a pretty good idea. Quarter deck when we do the birthday bash.
Yep.
That's a outdoor place where they do music and they sell beverages, and all we have to do is bring the fun and entertainment, and it works. So we're trying to kind of, and when the theater opens up,
there we go.
let's do a day of music and have it be awesome. Take it over the top.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
So that's where I don't know. I'm
think it's
really,
great.
if you don't tell me to stop talking, Joe, I'm going to keep talking.
We're rolling. No, that's great because we wanted to talk about MIBBFest, right?
Yes.
We want to let everybody know what's going on, and it's a lot of fun. I've gone. It's a blast. You guys got to come out and check it out. What I do want to do, though, is roll back a little bit, right?
Yeah.
This is MIBBFest. It's the Men in Black birthday bash.
Yes.
So we went over the Maury Island incident, the story. Touch on the Men in Black.
Okay. So on that second day of we said day 2 of the Maury Island, and the Man in Black shows up at Harold's house. They actually end up at a diner in Tacoma. Nobody knows which diner it is. We're kind of deciding even this year that we're going to do some sort of fun competition to have the 100-year-old diners in Tacoma along the waterfront, the working waterfront, sort of like compete to say it's us. I am Spartacus.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yes.
So we are, the actual sort of prime main event, when we first did the first year, it was just the Men in Black, the bash.
Yes.
The actual quarter deck party, which is cosplay. And if you don't know what cosplay is, or that sounds really scary, it is you are wearing, in a sense, a costume, but this is the world's easiest cosplay. It is at the Men in Black birthday bash. We're all men in black or women in black, or we have aliens show up. They are not. I've never invited. I do all the marketing. I've never even once mentioned that an alien can show up, and they do, which is, I think, charming. But our dress up, our cosplay, we've had everything from basically the fully clothed version of the singing cowboy from Times Square, like head to toe white, to all black,
right,
and then everything in between. We probably 70% of the people come probably be traditional. Blues Brothers.
Basically, that's what they look like,
right? Yeah. But then we get a lot of other stuff, and it's that it is structured somewhat. Again, a little bit of a burning saucer riff. It is structured as it is the annual meeting of a union.
Okay.
People that have never been there before are like, "What did I get myself into?"
You're part of a union,
and you're in the MIBBB. Chapter 1947.
All right.
That stands for men.
I think I got a sticker for that last year.
That stands for Men and Women in Black.
Nice.
Worldwide.
So you chose the Men in Black portion of this because, like you said, this was like the first time a Men in Black.
Yes,
Man in Black
we are absolutely celebrating the notion that that's a Pacific Northwest and particularly Washington story. The spawning of the Men in Black. What was
the story? What was Dahl, right?
Yes.
What was his actual reporting that you can find on the incidents or the encounters with the Men in Black? Like, what are we going off of?
So they go to a diner. So they go to a diner, and at the diner, according to the stories that Dahl tells to the FBI, to Ken Arnold, to anybody essentially, is that at the diner, the Man in Black told him, "I know what happened to you yesterday on the water," and then told him the details.
Okay.
So everything I just shared with the listeners.
Right.
So that was all recounted to Harold Dahl, and then he did something that kind of turns out Men in Black always do. They give the warning.
Right.
And the warning was you can't tell anybody what happened to you. If you do, bad things are going to happen to you, and they're going to happen to your family and your business, and you just shouldn't talk.
Right.
And the unfortunate thing, I guess, is that Harold did ultimately talk. So that was the end of their encounter at the diner.
Right. So they never came back after that.
Yeah,
Just
we have
the one encounter.
not that
that you know of.
That is recorded.
That's documented.
So. And the way we know what happened is primarily through the FBI interviews. So after the plane crash, after the FBI gets involved, Jack Wilcox gets involved. He's interviewing everybody, and he's interviewing Harold Dahl several times, and that's where this recounting comes in. Same stories told in Ken Arnold's 1952 book, because Arnold was there and was part of this whole. So he's telling the same sort of linear set of events of this experience with the Men in Black.
So he had a experience with the Men in
No,
Black
I'm
as well.
sorry. This Harold's experience. So he's
gotcha.
relaying what Harold. So at least the witnesses are consistent. I guess that's my point.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
And then that's kind of what we, that kind of ends the Men in Black story at Maury Island. What becomes really interesting, and at MIBBB Fest, when we have our the business meetings that we're having while we're drinking, while we're partying and dancing and doing everything, is several other communities have sort of filled the void. I mean, the records are sealed. There is no Maury Island story. There's no Men in Black story. There's nothing until we sort of dig into this in the 2000s. And in that intervening period, a number of people and communities have sort of said, oh, our Men in Black story that happened in 1956 is the first time the Men in Black ever appeared. Okay. And so we're kind of like, I don't know if we can say butthurt on the there are worse things we can say. But we have a grievance about these things, right? Right. In the same way that we have a little bit of a grievance in a fun way with Roswell, who gets all the 1947 oxygen. There's just no more breathing to do. With Roswell around. So we really try to. Part of it is a fun way to highlight issues, to create awareness of a great story.
It's a great local story.
It's a great story. And I think it should be a great story of significance in the same way Roswell is. Yeah. Because if you think about the weight of those stories, Roswell's important because, 10,000 books have been written about it. Right. Maury Island is not important because nobody ever thought it was worth scholarship. And I look at the two stories as narratives and go, Maury Island's a much more interesting story than
Maury Island happened first.
Yes. Maury Island is the first sort of mainstream, first significant sighting in this Summer of the Saucers in 1947.
Which is kind of odd because after Roswell happened, they actually published in the papers that a flying saucer had crashed. Yeah. And then went back and changed their tune, right?
we actually make fun of that in our movie a little bit, using J. Edgar Hoover. On July 8th in 1947, Army calls a press conference in Roswell, and they basically say, we have a crashed UFO.
Right.
And 3 hours later realize what a monumentally stupid thing that was to do. And they allegedly drag in a bunch of new material and put it on a photo and say, this was a weather balloon.
Weather balloon, yeah.
And that sort of is the kickoff party for everything we now know about Roswell, right? It's sort of like that's the thing. Yeah. So that's all the same. That's 2 weeks after us.
Oh, that's wild.
So that's another thing we talk about is this notion of we can't, if you really want to study this stuff, or even as a pop culture phenomenon, stop siloing it.
Yeah.
That's right. That makes no sense to just sort
I feel like that's happening.
Only
more
write
now,
a book
though.
about that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
I think we're getting a little better about that now, a little bit better, but it's hard. I am discovering it's incredibly hard to change a really set historical narrative.
Oh, sure.
And there are many more important historical narratives that probably need to change than this. But I mean, you realize we now call it the Roswell Industrial Complex. Okay. That there is so much resistance to this notion that there's a whole kind of interesting summer here and it's all worthy of your attention. Right. But that's kind of why we're doing what we're doing. Yeah. And there's some news that is coming out at the festival that will really be, and I just can't share it. I just can't share it. It will really be, if you're having fun with the story and maybe fun with our place in the universe and how we kind of throw elbows with Roswell, it's a really great piece of news.
Awesome. Cool.
And we'll share that at the festival.
Perfect. So you said you weren't a UFO guy. Let me ask, are you a UFO guy now? How do you feel about it?
No,
is it just this piece of it, this story, this project?
I confess in many instances, I'm a one-trick pony. I mean, I am what really turned me on was the local component, was that I walk out onto my deck. Right. And I look at the place this happened. Where it happened. Yeah. And I never knew the story. And I lived in the, I grew up in Des Moines. Right. I mean, and that just stunned me as something.
How did it never get talked about?
Yeah. Well, because was a hoax. Everybody thinks it's a hoax. Why would we
Right.
spend a minute on it?
Well,
and
and I
now we
think-
know that that part isn't actually accurate.
Right. Well, and I think nowadays it's getting a little bit more acceptable to talk about that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Whereas for years you didn't want to talk about it. You were a
Oh,
kook if you were talking about
Yeah,
it, right? So
it's a much well, and that was very consistent with everything that happened to Harold Dahl and Ken
Right.
Arnold and all these
Yep.
people way back when. They just got eviscerated.
yeah, exactly.
And the government was, in many instances, factually behind that, was
Right.
to try to discredit all this stuff. So, yeah, it seems like there's a level of acceptance, even all the way up to a governmental level, although it's
they're having the UFO
Challenges,
hearings
the
now,
hearings,
you
yeah,
know,
so-
or UAP. Sorry, they
Yeah,
changed it. It's UAP.
yeah, that's always an interesting rebranding. Is us.
Rebranding. It's rebranding for sure. So after digging into the Maury Island incident, and then obviously that turns you over to like Kevin. Is it Kevin Arnold? Is that correct?
Ken Arnold, yeah,
Yeah, Ken Arnold. And then Roswell. So you didn't end up going down a deep rabbit hole. It just kind of ended up just right in this same kind of time period.
Yeah,
or-
I was very fascinated by all of the history.
Mm.
So everything that was going on in 1947, from President Truman announcing the containment doctrine against the Soviets,
Yeah.
and that being sort of this rationale for why we were paying attention to all these, because some of the saucer, thousands of sightings were being reported. A lot of it was just like, it was the popular thing to do in
Sure.
that summer. People were like making games,
right.
but
We saw one too.
clearly not all of them.
Right.
And so there was this interest and so the idea that the machinations of government were grinding forward on this issue.
Mhm.
And when you start reading the writings of J. Edgar Hoover, and
That's
he's,
wild.
And he's basically I call them flaming emails all the time. And they're flaming teletypes.
Right.
With an army general named Shulgren about jurisdiction over who gets to investigate the UFOs. I mean, just the crazy stuff that was going on during this period. It has a little bit of a oh gosh, what's the famous war movie with Peter Sellers and Dr. Strangelove?
Oh,
There's a
Dr.
Dr.
Strangelove. Okay.
Strangelove component
Yeah.
to this where Hoover and the Army, and they're arguing about the flying saucers. And
Did you ever dig into Hoover more to find out why he was so interested in saucers?
Well, I tried. I mean, I read a bunch of stuff. I would pick up biographies and try to figure out during this period, and
Right.
I saw no scholarship on it at all.
Okay.
So maybe
just something.
Maybe he'll just
could be
dismissed it,
sci-fi movie
but
or
he
whatever.
commented on the Roswell investigation. He was commenting on all kinds of components. One of the most important things also in the storytelling part is on August 14th, so during the same summer,
Okay.
Jack Wilcox, our Agent Mulder,
Yep.
Agent Mulder is
Agent Mulder.
investigating away. He's investigating away. And on August 14th, he gets a teletype directly from Hoover.
Okay.
These two documents are my favorite documents in the entire story. And J. Edgar Hoover himself is writing a teletype to this field agent in Tacoma. And he basically says, because he's been a little sloppy in keeping up,
Okay.
he goes, I understand this is a hoax. And so that we can close this case.
Okay.
And you're the director of the FBI and you're telling an agent to close the case.
Right. Right.
Wilcox gets this, and I can just imagine as a writer,
Right.
must be stewing about it,
Right.
because it's not true.
It's not
right?
true. Yeah.
And so he writes a teletype back on August 14th, 3 hours later,
Okay.
to the executive director of the FBI, maybe the most powerful man in the world. In this moment.
Really? Yeah.
Really was.
Yeah.
And he basically corrects Hoover and says, you're wrong.
No
that
kidding.
Dahl never confessed to a hoax. I mean, it's in black and white. I mean, Dahl never confessed to a hoax. Dahl, and we put these on a T-shirt. Dahl did not admit that it was a hoax, but only said he would claim it's a hoax to get out from under the trouble. He wanted to be a liar.
Yeah. Makes sense when you got the Men in Black on your butt.
Yeah, right. I mean, if that's so
what's your thought on the Men in Black? Other than the festival.
Well,
and everything?
I firmly believe that there have been the black, what they wear is less,
Yeah.
I firmly believe that there have been since, certainly since World War II and probably before, many off-book operations where government agencies and personnel are doing things that they're not authorized to do, warning people, threatening people, doing whether it's CIA overseas or whether it's FBI domestically or whether it's something that's neither of those entities and they're out doing it. Certainly, I believe that kind of thing happens. I'm extraordinarily open-minded about all these topics, but I also sort of
Hey, what's up, Hamp?
What's going on?
He's still there?
we're going on and on and on.
You got to.
I'm listening. I told you I'm a good listener.
No, I heard you said something. I thought that we didn't want to cut you out.
Oh no, I was telling Star to get off my bed. She hopped her big ass up here.
You were talking to your 200-pound Rottweiler?
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, man. All right. You got any questions so far?
No. Interesting story though. Let's continue.
All right. So, okay, let me ask you this. With this being the original Men in Black story, like you said, the pebble in the pond that created the ripple, did you dig into other Men in Black stories at all, or did you just stick? Okay.
I this is sort of I tried to dig into the ones I felt that mattered.
Okay.
From the standpoint of legacy.
Okay.
So what I was interested in is, I've come to the belief that this is the pebble. This is the story.
It sounds like it.
And
got the documentation to kind of prove it, right?
There's plenty of stuff, right? There's plenty of stuff out there, and then it's pretty clear that other people in other communities have this, have a story, and it's pretty clear. And this is maybe the lawyer in me going through what their story is, and when they're saying it, and the date they said it happened, and then what was going on that date, and essentially, can I prove that they picked this up from somebody else, right? Kind of thing,
right?
And so that part of the work has been super interesting, because I always felt like, that's important, right? If I'm gonna take the position that this is an origin story that came from our backyard,
right, and
it's an origin story of, if you think about how, from a business perspective, how big is this notion of the Men in Black,
right?
It's a $2 billion movie franchise.
Yeah, no kidding.
Just
no kidding.
Theatrical.
Right.
I'm just it's like off the charts. And
the Dahl family should get some money for that.
I think, and that's part of living in Des Moines. I think it's sort of a good Des Moines story. And I think having sort of taking these historical narrative stories that have so much entertainment value and figuring out a way to elevate them just so people know the story, and then maybe create an opportunity for a community to embrace it. I don't think, then we did a lot of case studies when we decided to do this festival, MIBBFest, looking at, what are festivals around the world that have just become huge, based on some sort of historical narrative. Yeah. And they're out there. Oh yeah. And they're amazing. And it takes a long time. These are, 50-year-old festivals, but they're all based on some weird nugget of history. Yeah. And they just, the community embraces that and sort of says, we value that story. Right. That's us. If it's going to be UFOs, UFOs are us.
You guys got you're on the marina there where they poured the new concrete and everything.
Yeah, there's some nice stuff there. Yeah, there's the telescopes.
The telescopes that you can look at Maury Island now.
And a lot of that is, our tourism bureau that covers kind of these several cities in south of Seattle. Has really looked at what we're doing. Their job is to say, what's going on that I can advertise our communities to people who don't live here. Right. And they really have,
something
I'm
fun,
very
something
pleased.
different.
I'm very pleased that they seem to have pointed a finger at us and said, what you guys are doing is something that we want to spend time,
for sure,
and our money to figure out how to get that word out, because it's really fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Could be something very huge for sure.
So yeah, we got a lot of support that way. The thing that we need, and so this is my pitch.
Go for it. Yep.
The pitch is to plug. Well, so I've been plugging it all, right? And
no, it's great. That's why you're here.
It's easy to get a hold of. Find out more about us.
Facebook, right?
We're all on Facebook. The website is MIBBB.
Okay.
622. The date that it all happened.
All
so
right.
MIBB622.com. The thing that we need is easy, and that is we need people to go.
Show up.
We need people to go. We have a lot of free events this year. Oh, Sparky, we have a great event on Sunday the 22nd this year. Sunday the 22nd, because this is the first case of a dog death by UFO. Right. I know that sounds hard not to laugh. Yeah. But it is. And we're like, and we realize that these little elements of the story, after a long, long time, they start to bubble up like nobody's ever talked about. That's
true.
Right?
Sparky's his own character.
Sparky. So we are. So we're having a tournament on Sunday the 22nd, and I don't know if you're familiar with this new sport called flying disc dog. And
not
basically,
flying disc dog.
They're on ESPN. You can go on the lesser ESPN channels, and it's on all the time.
Okay.
And you have a dog and a handler and a frisbee, and then you have a course, and it's like just like a football field. And so you want to throw that frisbee 50 yards.
Okay.
And the dog runs down, catches it in the air.
Okay.
And if it's 50 yards, they get 5 points.
Gotcha.
If you don't throw it that far and they go 40 yards, they get 4 points.
Okay.
You get 1 minute to get as many points. So the dog is running and jumping and running and jumping and running and jumping. And these dogs are up in the air. And it's just glorious. It's just fantastic. So there's a great group in Sumner, Summit Disc Dogs, and they're compete in a world organization. And we were like, we got to do the Sparky thing. We got to do the Sparky thing. And someone came up with the idea, why don't we do a flying disc dog tournament? And it just came to it was like just me. I go, oh, I mean, like 78 years ago, a flying disc, Sparky.
Hey, you know,
in 2025, the dogs bite back. You know, that's the pitch, right?
I like it.
And so,
I like it.
So we're gonna have a
Are you doing down at the park at the Marina?
It's actually going to be at the field house. The field's at the Des Moines Field House, 11 a.m. So, and that's free. I mean, just
nice.
So how do you not go to that? I mean, you got to watch dogs jump. Come on.
Cool. That's very cool.
And Rafferty is free, but the Colleen Rafferty event looked like that's
at the
that's sold out. Yeah.
Sold out. Okay.
The event on the 20th, the film where we're showing the Maury Island film, and we're doing sci-fi trivia, and there's a party that's free, and food is free, and they have a bar you can buy your drinks, and it's going to be a great, super fun time. That's on the 20th. I think that costs $15.
Oh no!
But that would be, but that'll be fun. That'll be
that's fun. I really enjoy that. I've been to it every year,
and I don't know. Have you been to the mall and seen the huge Maury Island Men in Black exhibit in the hallways of South Center Mall?
No, I haven't. I don't honestly, dude. I don't go to the mall. My kids go to the mall.
Yes.
I don't go to the mall.
So you're gonna go to the mall now.
Now I gotta go. My daughters were there earlier.
Huge, it's like going to a museum.
Okay.
And it's a huge mall walls up to the ceiling. And Seattle Southside, the Tourism Bureau, went to town.
Really?
And there's this huge. You got the conspiracy wall.
Nice.
You got a phone booth to leave recorded messages for aliens.
Really?
And I think they have like 11,000 messages
for
aliens already.
I'm going
already. And I'm like, what are you going to do with that content? That is like think about that.
That's so.
You got 11,000 people leaving messages for aliens.
That's so cool.
What's in there?
I don't know. I want to hear it though. I want to hear it. No,
right.
That's awesome.
So, and they're doing a week-long scavenger hunt that starts at that exhibit. You know, and I don't really know what we're hunting for, but the exhibit's worth seeing.
They'll be posting about it. And stuff.
It's all just kind of getting underway. So.
Nice. And then we got a mural down here too.
Oh yeah, we got a mural on the side of Harper Studios there, which is a good story about that mural. That mural was actually commissioned by our movie's executive producer.
Oh.
And he commissioned it. He had an artist make it. He was so into the movie and so happy, and he was just like, oh, you know, we didn't know he was doing it. All of a sudden, we're going like, hey,
yeah,
you know, nice.
Awesome.
So he had it up in Burien on a wall of a business in Burien, and that building sold.
Oh, okay.
And the new owner didn't want it there.
Oh,
and so John
Yeah.
went to the city council and said, hey, they don't want the mural, but it's this great piece of art.
Nice.
And apparently the council just didn't jump.
Oh, really?
You know, they just didn't like get it or jump or whatever,
Right.
which annoyed John, I think. I heard him tell a story and I go, Des Moines wants that mural.
Oh, yeah.
I go,
for sure. It's
I
in
go,
the perfect
and
spot.
not
too.
only do we want it, we want to do it. I'm going to see if I'll get the council to pass a resolution. We want to steal it from Burien. We want to make a point. It's an art theft, and we're going to take it.
I like it.
And so we pulled all that off. Des Moines actually voted 7-0 to
When was
get the
that?
mural. Oh, I'm going to guess 7 or 8 years ago, maybe.
Okay. It was like
And
right
so-
before I moved here. Then,
So
yeah.
there's at Harper Studios, they had that big container,
Mhm.
and then they mounted it there. And now other artists showing up. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
There's other little
I
pieces
have
out
seen
there.
some
which
other
is
pieces,
really fun.
yeah.
They do. Seattle Southside they just launched a UFO trail. So
Uh-huh.
you can go online and you can like see UFO sites and art. We also had a UFO tour that's still there, a guided audio tour. So there's bunches of things that people can do.
All kinds of fun stuff.
to kind of get into this. All begging the question,
Right?
ought to take that ferry over to Maury Island and go down to that beach. It's a hoot. It's
Yeah?
a great hike. Yeah. It's not a
I haven't
hard
been to
hike.
Maury Island.
Not a hard hike, but
Yeah, I
it's
haven't
a
actually
wonderful
been
and
there.
it's a wonderful beach, and you're just sitting there going, you'll be standing where we, shot that part of the movie, and you'll look out from that beach and you'll see Mount Rainier, and then you'll go, oh, so these all happened in the same spot.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Oh,
It just
yeah.
really dawns on
Yep,
you.
for
These
sure.
are not siloed. These are not different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So
Well, let me ask you this. So
Sure.
we're getting close here, right? We're a little over an hour, which is great. As a lawyer, when you have something that has so much evidence, I mean, not just the Maury Island incident, but all the incidents, right? All the people that claim to have seen UFOs or have different experiences, whatever they might be. With that much evidence, what would your call be?
well, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a skeptic. when I do public speaking on this topic, and I do a lot, I speak for Humanities Washington, and I've been on their Speakers Bureau for, I think last year I did 30 talks around the state on this subject. I get asked. I get asked this question all the time.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. You know, what do you think? Well, basically, it boils down to what do you think about all this?
Sure.
And I decided, I actually reformulated my talk to kind of get to that at that front end.
Okay.
And I show a picture. I don't know if you've ever seen this photograph. It's an overlapping picture that was taken by the Hubble telescope and oh gosh, what's the other telescope they have? What's it called? The Hubble and the anyway, they have NASA. I mean, like NASA's got the Hubble Webb telescope. The Webb,
the newer one.
So
right?
they took the pictures of the same place like 4.5 billion light years away.
Right.
And they overlapped them and then sort of did a scientific colorization. And I show that picture because it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like one of the most stunning. If you see a high res version of that, you're just like, and I share that. I go, so philosophically, I can't look at that and say it's dead.
Right. But there's nothing.
I just can't. That like seems nuts to me.
Right.
So philosophically, the next thing I show is this thing called the Drake equation. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Drake equation.
I have heard of it. Yeah.
It is in 1961. A lot of scientists decided to use math and physics to decide if there's life out there.
That's right. Yeah.
And they just assigned the variables to everything that is important for life.
Right.
And the size of the universe and planets and suns and everything.
Sure.
And at the end of the equation was there are like 100,000. Oh, what's the number? It's like 100,000 to the whatever degree. It's an incredibly large number of likely
candidates, right?
Places that have evolved life. I mean, that have the conditions to evolve life.
Yeah.
So it's an incredibly large number. Now the question is always, well, why don't we see them? Why aren't they having tea on the White House lawn?
Right. Oh, it's always the White House lawn.
Yes, I know.
It's always the White House lawn.
And I think in reading about it and trying to learn about it, I think the answer is that's just how big the universe is.
Yeah.
I mean, that big number is a still needle in the haystack.
Right. Right.
In the size of the universe.
For sure.
So our inability to comprehend the relativistic size of those numbers is what's explaining that. We just don't understand that it's still a needle in the haystack.
So if we think take the Drake equation, take how large the universe is and everything else, and we say, okay, there's a chance that there's life out there. Now you got to take and say, what's the chance that they are capable of getting to here?
Sure.
Right? Yeah. You take an instance like the Maury Island incident. Do you think those were saucers? You think those were otherworldly?
The best theory I've heard that as a lawyer, I'm just always wanting evidence. I mean, I never quit asking.
That's why I'm asking.
I never quit asking. So, and I also use terms at the beginning. I always go, and I end up saying I'm not a believer. And believer is a word that's loaded.
Sure.
And it's like, and everybody knows believers. Believers believe everything. They're like, they saw it yesterday on the internet, and they're like, "This is the way it is."
Well, I think a believer could be a bad thing too, right? Because you're gonna spin it to believe.
That's what I mean. I think I'm not that, and nor am I a skeptic, because there are skeptics who, for some inexplicable reason, think that we have learned everything there is to learn, and I think that's just arrogant and stupid.
I think that's ignorance.
It's just like crazy. So I'm in between, right? And so when someone says, "Did you think that happened?" I say, "Well, I certainly aren't going to tell you it didn't happen.
Sure,
I'm not going to tell you that.
Sure."
Do I think there's enough evidence to definitively to know what happened? No, I don't.
Right.
I just don't. Am I open-minded about anything that we would learn? Yes, please come research this. Let's spend more time on it. Let's figure out more. And I find that's a treasure hunt.
Yeah.
That's fun, right? and the thing that's compelling to me, the most compelling piece of evidence to me, is the recent evidence, all of the video evidence that was captured by the Navy pilots.
Yeah,
the Tic Tac videos and everything. And I spent a lot of time on those, in part because I actually saw Commander Fravor speak.
Nice.
Actually, the first time
I've seen him, but
the first time Fravor, one of the Navy pilots that saw the first Tic Tac in 2004, the first time he ever spoke publicly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was there. I didn't really kind of know it all, and then I happened to be in the audience for that event, and here was a
accredited pilot, right?
a recently retired Navy pilot
trained to observe things
trained
in
to
the
observe.
air. Yeah.
And he just told the story. He
Right.
didn't try to convince anybody. All I'm going to tell you is what happened.
Yep.
And then then he compellingly explained, and what I'm telling you what happened, it's all recorded.
Yeah.
All the everything our airplanes did is
It's all
recorded.
here. Yep.
Everything we saw is recorded.
Yep.
Everything, so I'm not.
It's compelling
check-
evidence.
Please check it. Yeah, and if people don't know that, I mean, all you have to do is Google Tic Tac videos
TikTok, yeah.
and start diving in. And basically, these were all from 2004 to 2017, roughly.
Have you seen the jellyfish video?
No.
That one's wild, dude.
Oh.
It's I think it's in Afghanistan. I might be wrong on that, but it's this craft, and it's filmed through it's like infrared or something like that. It's never a normal camera; it's a military camera, right? And this thing, it looks like a robot almost, like a machine, and it's got these tentacles. I always wish I had someone in here to pull this stuff up. Yeah, pull up the jellyfish video, but it's got these things hanging down, and it's coasting over this base, just coasting, and it's cruising real slow, and it changes from hot to cold. It goes from black to bright white, bright white. Goes right over these guys walking, and they don't see it.
Oh,
it's wild.
Oh, it's just being picked up on infrared.
It's just being picked up on infrared. Pretty crazy stuff, man. There's a bunch of this stuff coming out now. It's wild.
And what I like about the whole Tic Tac video, all that science. So to the point of what do I think?
Yes.
The U.S. government, and I've read the reports. The preliminary assessment that came out in 2021 from the Department of Defense. When they're starting to say, okay, we're going to start looking at this stuff again.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to kind of learn how to read reports about UFOs from the government, because they always start off, there is no evidence of aliens. That is the lead. That's the headline. It's the lead.
Yeah.
And you just have to keep reading, because what you're trying to get to is the body, or the end of it, and the fine print, I guess.
Yeah.
Which always says, but there are 761 things we can't explain.
Yes, exactly.
And you're sitting there going, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
They'll say there's no evidence for, but then there's all this evidence, right?
Yeah.
Unexplainable evidence.
And even if you say, and that is what's, I think hopefully that's what keeps the government at it.
Right.
That they're going forward. I spend time when I give the talk on sort of why we have trouble with the government. And one of my favorite examples is, we were told, from the 40s and 50s, there's no place called Area 51. Doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Doesn't exist.
Yep. Doesn't exist.
And then it was 2013 that the CIA said, oh, Area 51 has always existed.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry. And military testing, whatever they were saying. And then kind of like wanted to say, of course we can't tell you everything, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And it's like, but the problem is now you're Charlie Brown and Lucy, and
Yeah,
and you have to
pulling the
believe
football.
you're not going to pull the football away.
Right.
So now when you tell us there's no evidence of aliens, are you telling us in a CIA Area 51 kind of way?
Right.
Or are you saying this one's really true?
Right.
And you can't, if you're the government, you have to understand people will not believe what you say.
That's right.
And they have a basis not to believe what you say. So you got to come up with a better way.
Well, it's like the New Jersey drone thing. I was cracking up. There was I think it was a senator or something came on. And the first thing he said is, I'm going to tell you the real deal. I'm going to give you the truth right now. Immediately when they say that, you're like, no, you're not. You're preempting and telling me how honest you're going to be.
Yeah.
No, you're full of crap. And then he was the guy that led to say that I think it was Israel had a mothership parked off the coast and they were launching drones. And I'm like, that's a wild accusation to make. First of all, like you could
Super
spark
detailed.
a war.
That's very
what I
detailed.
mean? Like that's not good stuff.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. It's not there. Well, it was always there. You just didn't hear us right the first time, or
Well,
whatever.
I like you saying it, phrasing it that way. It's like talking to people and younger people, I think sometimes they start off and they go, not going to lie. And I'm like going, I'm now predisposed to be pretty sure you're about to
or no offense.
navigate. Yeah.
Yeah. No offense.
Yeah, no offense.
But yeah, I like it, man. No, I think it's fun stuff. I think I'm on the side of, let's go back to X-Files.
Yeah.
Was it Mulder, right? He had the poster.
Mulder.
I want to believe.
Yes.
I'm not going to say I believe. I want to believe. I want the evidence to show me. I want to enjoy it, and I think
I agree.
There's some cool stories. There's some cool stuff. I think the recent UAP hearings and all the different videos that are coming from military pilots and stuff. It's
to me, dealing with these topics is a bit of a treasure hunt.
Yeah.
And I really, and that's why I get so attracted to the historical components. That's why, if I get a chance to come and do a talk on our whiskey history.
There you go.
I got to tell you,
we're gonna do
every bit as crazy as the UFO story.
Yeah.
It's
I
nuts.
bet. I bet.
The whiskey stories are hilarious, and it actually you end up with a great deal of pride about our bootlegger.
Awesome. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Cool, man. Well, hey, I think we're at a good spot. Give us one more time. Give us the dates for MIBBB Fest and
MIBBB Fest, Men in Black Birthday Bash. It runs from June 13th to June 22nd of 2025. So it's coming up in about 6 weeks. Lots of things free. Some things you pay for. The big bash is if I was going to tell you.
We got some swag here today, too.
Yeah, there you go.
Hamp, we got you a hat here, bud, when you get back.
Yeah, good swag.
Cool. Yeah, bring it on. You know, I like wearing stuff. So.
Yeah. We got, there's a poster. I don't know where that goes.
It's going to go in here, dude.
That's actually the outdated poster because we hadn't added all of our events, so we don't even have all the days on there.
Nice.
But there we decided to have like this fantasy rendering of Sparky the dog.
I like
we had to
it.
get Sparky the dog in the picture.
I was wondering because I saw the dog this time and I was wondering where that
what
came
is
from.
that
makes sense. Makes sense. Looks like a Roddy 2 Hamp.
Sparky's Revenge. Yeah, Sparky's Revenge. So my ask is if you haven't been to the Men in Black Birthday Bash and you want to know the story, you want to have fun, you want to dress up like a Men in Black, this is the one. So I would encourage you to jump and get those tickets. That's the ask. Get those tickets.
Very cool. Very cool. Hamp, you got anything for our guests before we close out?
No. Great to take us out. It's a real interesting story. I learned a lot, and looking forward to having you again. Now, you did say something. Are y'all having something? We're planning on something for like a whiskey or something about that up there somewhere?
Yeah, we
weren't going to tell you about that. We have big plans, Ham.
We got big plans. Yeah, we're gonna do.
We're
gonna set something up for the Stick Lounge.
I have one of those mind that needs to know. You know.
Oh yeah, no. We're gonna set something up for the Stick Lounge with them. I'll talk to you about that. We're gonna get something going.
Okay.
Cool. Hey,
well,
real
pleasure
quick.
meeting you, man. I look forward to you. Tell your wife I'm gonna keep pushing and.
Hey, just get better. Listen to the doctors, and it's gonna go by fast.
Oh yeah, you'll be once you're feeling good with this one, you're gonna be like, all right, let's do the next one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and get the other one. Then I can go back overseas and get about 2-3 more years in. I don't smoke or drink, so
go back to playing ball.
There you go.
Yeah, I have some good knees, you know.
There you go. Hey, Hamp, I gotta ask, what's your stance on this stuff? You ever seen a UFO? You believe in aliens?
Growing up in the project in the South, we believe anything that was UFO late at night up in the sky, and it didn't look like the North Star. Okay.
Yeah.
It was just an unidentified flying object to us.
There you go.
And
That's
make
all
sure
it
that
is.
nobody got picked up and was checking. Did you see Kevin last night? Yeah, I saw him this morning. Okay, he didn't get scooped up by the UFO.
There you go. Right on, man. All right. Well, Steve, thanks for joining us. It was awesome. And you know what?
Do what you usually do.
All right, I'm going to do what I do. We'll have you here again, and we're going to work on that speakeasy night that we're going to do. I think that'll be good.
Good.
Thanks, man.
Joe and Hampton, lights dim, it's game time. Interview sharp, cut through like a shank line. Stick lounge, stories unfold, real and raw. From hustlers to dreamers, breaking laws with a claw. Microphone warriors, capturing life's conflicts. Sitting across legends, tales flick like black picks. Drop bars, not mics, knowledge, it rains. From the streets to the beats in every vein. Stick lounge podcast, tales heavy with the weight.